This is my 1994 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am that I picked up off Marketplace for $3,500. So here's what $3,500 will get you in a Firebird. So this is the Trans Am, which means it has a 5.7 liter V8 engine, also known as the LT1. Now, this is considered a very good engine. However, one of the downfalls of having it is it had an OptiSpark, which basically is a distributor, but it's a little bit different. And in theory, it's supposed to be very good. However, it's not really supposed to get wet, and it's sitting right near the water pump, and it's also at the front of the engine near the bottom. So it's kind of a terrible place to put it. So a lot of people have issues with it. But then again, some people have issues at 20,000 miles and others drive it for 200,000 miles without ever having to replace it or even fix it. Other than that, it's just a Chevy small block made of cast iron with aluminum heads. So it's a pretty good engine. Now, I bought this car off Marketplace for $3,500. He was originally asking $4,000, and it's definitely worth that because this car is in pretty good condition. But you know, you never know, so you always want to try and haggle a little bit. The heating and air conditioning works, but it takes a while for it to get cold. The radio and speakers also work, which is really nice. And I picked up this off Amazon for $15, and it makes it be able to do Bluetooth. It doesn't have great sound quality, but it's good enough. If you heard the cold start, you will realize that this isn't a stock exhaust. It's aftermarket, but I'm not really sure what it is. So apparently recently before buying it, he changed the spark plugs, so that won't need to be done for a while. And when I bought the car, both of the pop-up headlights, when you shut them, they would make a really loud grinding noise. But I've replaced them both, and it was fairly easy, and they're not that expensive. Plus, he gave me one of the motors, which was really nice. So now they both work really well, except for the right one, which gets caught a little bit sometimes. The interior on this car is in amazing shape. It looks wonderful for being 30 years old and having 85,000 miles on it. Plus, the seller seemed to keep this car in really good condition, as well as he smoked cigarettes, but there was no cigarette smell in the car at all, even though there was ashes in the ashtray. So he did a really good job of either hiding the smell or not smoking in here very often. One of the issues though is this driver's side window doesn't go down. So I'm gonna either need to replace the motor or see what it's getting caught on. But the passenger side works just fine. The first thing you'll notice when you look at this car is the hood is not the same color as the rest of the car, and that's because it's the Ram Air hood. Basically, it's a hood that allows more airflow and it's supposed to have the Ram cold air intake. However, this doesn't actually have the Ram cold air intake, it just has the hood. I don't really like the Ram Air hood. I like it to be more flat like the original one. I'll put a picture. But I mean, it came with the car, so I guess we'll maybe find a replacement, but you never know. It's painted the same color as the rest of the car. It's just not clear coated. So we're going to need to do that, or we're going to have to repaint or wrap the whole car. Ideally, I would like to paint it. And I've seen some purple Firebirds and they look awesome. Like a dark purple with white wheels and yellow calipers would look sick. Also, unfortunately, the state I live in makes you have to use a front plate. And I bought this car in a state that you didn't have to use a front plate. So it didn't have a mount or anything. So I 3D printed one and I slapped it on the car. So hopefully that holds up for a while. But I just hate the look of a front plate on this car because it looks so good without one. If you take a look out the back of this car, you'll see how much visibility you have. This thing is truly a fishbowl if you've ever seen one. It's a hatchback, and when you look back here to change lanes or just go in reverse, it's absolutely insane how much you can see. And since this is a Trans Am, it has this little button here that turns it into performance mode. There's not a ton of information about this online, but apparently it gives you some better shifts, and since this is an automatic, shut up, I know it's automatic, but I got it for $3,500. But it gives you better shifts, so it'll give you a little bit more performance, I guess. One of the cool options this car has is this lock button right here. Some of them don't have this, but this is an automatic lock, so when I get out of the car, I can just press this and it'll lock both the driver and passenger side door, as opposed to having to stick the key in on both sides and lock it. One thing about the actual Firebird key though is this little piece right here is actually a transponder, It's not technically a transponder, but it kind of acts the same way as one, so someone can't just get in the car with the same cut of key as you and steal it. But when you go to a hardware store and try and get this cut, it'll come up as a number 4 key. However, it's not just a number 4 key. You have to get one with this piece in it right here and have it programmed to your car, even though it won't show up as being a transponder key. And that's one of the problems I ran into, is I got one cut from a hardware store and then tried to start my car, but it didn't work, even though the key slid all the way in and it was cut perfectly, is I wasn't able to do it because it has this little transponder key. So I'm going to have to go somewhere and get that programmed, but you can cut the door lock key on any old machine, and I don't know the number of the key, but they're like only a few bucks. One of the reasons I went with the Firebird is because it has dual airbags starting in 1992, I believe. A lot of cars before this, especially cars with pop-up headlights, don't have airbags at all, or they just have them on the driver's side. And yes, I know older airbags aren't the safest. I believe it's better than having nothing at all, but let's just hope I never have to use them. This car also has ABS, so if I slam on the brakes, it'll stop me from locking them up and skidding across the road. But the back brakes are grabbing a little bit and it's pretty grooved on the rotor, so I'm going to have to replace them. And the front tires need to be replaced, but that's basically all the work that this car needs. The alternator and battery were just replaced. The engine seems to run fine and there's not any leaks that I'm aware of. It already has an exhaust. So really just the rear brakes and the front tires and a paint job. And that's really it for actually getting this car in tip-top shape. But for $3,500, it's kind of insane how good this car is and how good the condition it is. Like a comparable Firebird from 1994 would be like 7 or 8K where I live. So for 85,000 miles on the dash, this is really, really good. As for performance mods, I'm not really sure what I want to do with it yet. I'm still new to kind of working on cars, so I don't really want to do anything where I have to pull the motor. So what performance mods do you think I should do to it? So overall, this is a really good running and driving project car, and I'm so excited to work on this and get started because this is my first ever project car. So go ahead and follow along for the journey because it's going to be a lot of fun and I'm going to document the whole process. So hopefully you'll follow along and watch my videos. Thanks for watching. More videos to come soon.